An investigation of sexual abuse in a most sensitive place, the bedroom of a woman with dementia at a senior living home.
A witness saw something happen, but what happened next has a local family outraged.
An investigation by Scott MacFarlane and the News 4 I-Team reveals a series of delays in telling police and family, and a safety breakdown inside what's supposed to be a safe place.
Making the rounds on a Friday, a housekeeper worried when her knocks went unanswered. She unlocked the door to find the female resident in bed. She also found a construction worker from the property standing nearby, partially unclothed from the waist down. He cursed upon being seen. But what happened next is a mystery, because the housekeeper closed the door and left the woman behind. And that woman suffers from dementia. She's a resident of an assisted living facility.
You feel like your trust was broken?
Absolutely.
The woman's son worries his mother was taken advantage of by a sexual predator. We're masking the son's identity to protect his mother's.
There were a lot of levels of where things broke down and proper procedures were not followed.
He says he didn't know about the April 2018 incident at the Chevy Chase house in D.C. for nearly a week after it happened. The I-Team's uncovered there's a lot more he wasn't told. That possible sex crime witnessed by an employee went unreported to the facility's administrator and to police for nearly a week. In the meantime, the construction worker returned to work just days later and was seen on that woman's floor again. D.C. Health Department records we obtained under the Freedom of Information Act paint a troubling timeline. April 6, 2018, the housekeeper witnesses the possible sex crime and tells a Chevy Chase house receptionist. April 8th, the receptionist notifies the activities director, later explaining to health department investigators he didn't report it immediately because he thought it was likely consensual. April 9th, the construction worker, who's only partially named in public documents, is seen back at work. He's eventually questioned by his supervisor and escorted off the grounds. April 11th, the activities director notifies the Chevy Chase house administrator. And April 12th, nearly a week after the incident, the administrator calls the cops and the woman's family. Police say they couldn't make a case. The health inspection indicates the woman has no recollection of the incident.
You're an unbiased observer of this particular case. What'd you think of this?
I thought it was outrageous.
Laurie Smetanka is an expert in elder care. She says the long wait not only delayed getting the woman any care she needed, but could have compromised the case.
You need to follow up immediately in order to preserve evidence, in order to get recollections of individuals with dementia.
The D.C. Health Department, which licenses assisted living residences, did its own inspection into what went wrong. The agency found employees at the Chevy Chase house failed to immediately report an allegation of sexual abuse to the head of the facility, failed to thoroughly investigate an allegation of abuse, and failed to take appropriate action to protect residents from potential abuse during the investigation.
When we showed you what we found, this surprised you?
I was extremely surprised.
The woman's son and his attorney, Peter Anderson, knew little of this case until the I-Team contacted them and revealed what we found.
You didn't know the man returned to the office?
We had absolutely no idea.
Didn't know it took a week for this to get reported to police, but had been going through several employees?
We did not know that.
Didn't know the man cursed when caught by the housekeeper?
We did not have those facts.
The Chevy Chase house declined an interview request and would not answer questions about the case. In a statement, they say they've retrained staff, follow D.C. regulations, and that their license is intact. The woman's son said he moved his mother from the Chevy Chase house after learning of the incident. She says she has no memory of what happened, and health investigators didn't find any other incidents. But her son can't help but worry about what he doesn't know and how many times his mother or other people with dementia may have been harmed.
And there's no way of knowing. That's the scary part.
D.C. health records show Chevy Chase house met with residents to discuss the alleged incident in August, about 4 months after the police were called, and a month after D.C. health inspectors came in to ask their questions. The financial penalty by the district for this and the other issues, a fine, $10,000.
If you've ever driven it, you know it's already one of our area's most dangerous roads. And tonight, the News 4 I-Team uncovers a new concern.
An investigation by Scott MacFarlane raises serious questions about whether accused drunk drivers are getting off too easy.
It's one of Maryland's busiest roads. And one of the deadliest. In February, a driver killed when his car was rear-ended at 55 miles an hour. A mother killed crossing the street last March. And in December, a heartbreaking case when 3 children died after a suspected drunk driver struck their parents.
The most gut-wrenching part was when those children were killed on 210.
Cynthia Jones knows the pain Route 210, also known as Indian Head Highway, can cause. A suspected speeder crashed into and killed her cousin back in 2011.
Same area where the children were involved in the crash.
But even before that, she knew the danger.
She never saw him.
A decade earlier, a drunk driver hit and killed Jones's sister, who had pulled onto the shoulder to close her gas cap.
He hits her from behind, lifts her up out of her shoes.
A tragedy that still haunts her family and is relived every time she hears of another accident.
We still wish we still had her.
Amid all the incidents here, the state approved new speed cameras for the highway, and local leaders promised more traffic enforcement.
The I-Team found another issue which could be contributing to the problems on this dangerous stretch of road by pulling police reports of every drunk driving crash between January 2016 and December 2018 on this highway. We found 44 drivers prosecuted for drunk driving and crashing, including crashes which injured other people.
5 of those people were sentenced to any jail time. And for those 5, sentences were reduced to only a handful of days, often because they included other charges. And that's a problem, says the new state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy.
We look back at the last few dozen DUI crashes on Indian Head Highway. Almost nobody goes to jail, even people with multiple offenses. Is that acceptable?
That is not acceptable, and it will not be acceptable under my administration.
The I-Team found most of those charged for DUI crashes received something called probation before judgment, or PBJ. It's used in many state court systems, including Maryland's, allowing defendants to avoid jail time by immediately serving probation.
I think the state's attorney's office did a really good job in bringing forward these cases, but I think the justice system did not take these cases very seriously.
Braveboy and nearly a dozen legal analysts interviewed by the I-Team say during the 3-year span reviewed by the I-Team, DUI cases were handled differently in Prince George's County than in other parts of the state, where cases in circuit court were primarily managed by one judge who ran what's informally known in the legal system in the county as a rocket docket, a system operated to move cases faster, and attorneys tell us it was known for dispensing lighter sentences in the name of speed.
Did that surprise you?
Doesn't surprise me at all. No, we don't see jail offenses for drunk drivers, and that's concerning.
MAD's Lisa Spicknall says what the I-Team found shows the county is too lenient on drunk drivers.
They're walking out with not even a slap on the hand to say don't do it again, and they're going out and reoffending.
In a statement, the Maryland court system acknowledges it had been using a unique system for DUIs, with one judge pushing them through. But they also said the system has just changed. The judge recently left the bench for unrelated reasons, and now all 24 judges in the circuit court system can hear and rule on DUIs. As for Cynthia Jones, she hopes the court system's proposed changes will stiffen DUI penalties.
It's a disaster in waiting for anyone who drives on 210, and a lot of people do avoid it.
And she prays she won't hear of another family on the news dealing with another loss.
She was the heart and joy of our family.
Taken away on this dangerous stretch of road. Scott MacFarlane, News 4 IT.
Tonight, a different kind of cell phone interference. We're talking about smartphones in the classroom. Our News 4 I-Team finds some local schools are stiffening their rules amid concerns phones interfere with teaching and learning. Reporter Scott MacFarlane and the I-Team went back to class today to see how easy it is for students to become distracted.
In high school, life comes at you fast. Faster than it used to.
When did you first get a phone?
I got my first phone in 8th grade.
At Tuscarora High School in Frederick County, Destiny Needham is finishing her senior year and hoping to get into NC State. But she already has the world at her fingertips.
What are you getting on your phone?
Usually like Snapchats or just like text messages from friends or like Instagram notifications.
More than 70% of the U.S. schools that once banned cell phones now allow them, according to a 2015 University of Michigan study. But the I-Team found some local schools are dialing it back. And Destiny knows why.
There's always sometimes that urge to want to go and look at it.
Distraction.
Just depending on who it is, I'll respond to it right away.
The only screen you're going to need is your phone.
Erin Harris has taught at Thomas Jefferson High School in Fairfax County for more than a dozen years and has seen the change.
Are we at the point where every student or almost every student has a phone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fairfax lets high school teachers decide whether to allow personal devices in their classrooms, and for Harris, phones must be face down unless she gives permission to use them.
If they're sneaking a peek at something on the phone, you could sense that.
Yes, and I find it highly irritating.
Thomas Jefferson High, along with Tuscarora, let the I-Team into the classroom to see just how often students are fighting distraction.
Everybody can turn your phones face up, and you can turn them on. And we're going to try something.
In one classroom in each school, we asked students to mark the board with every ping, alert, and text they received.
2, 1, 1.
The results poured in.
I got one.
In each classroom, students tallied more than 100 notifications by the end of class. Tuscarora student Eden Olademeji says this is just an average day.
How tempting is it to look at it, even if the teacher's talking?
It's extremely tempting.
The I-Team wanted to know how much this is impacting teachers, so we surveyed hundreds of them in D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. And though unscientific, some of the responses were overwhelming.
Only 25% say their school's personal device policy is adequately enforced, and 65% said phones in the classroom are affecting their enjoyment of their work. Harris said she sometimes lets her students use their phones for assignments, but
If you let it get to the point where you're not setting out clear expectations, then it could easily be something that's distracting them from any task that you give them.
nearly 85% of local teachers surveyed by the I-Team said cell phones in the classroom should be banned outright. One teacher wrote students are addicted. Another called it disrespectful, and several others said phones lead to cheating.
I would say that a zero tolerance policy of technology is not realistic in this day and age.
At George Washington University, education technology expert Natalie Millman says many parents want to be able to quickly access their child during the school day. And she and some of the teachers who responded to our survey also said phones in the classroom help students learn responsible use of technology.
Self-regulation, I think, is important to teach.
Some local schools are not convinced. D.C.'s Woodrow Wilson High is testing a program requiring students keep their phones in locked pouches during class time. And this year, West Frederick Middle and Alexandria's George Washington Middle instituted a cell phone-free environment. Back at Tuscarora High,
Do you see a frustration ever by teachers about this?
Yeah, they do, especially like during instruction and somebody's like trying to respond to a text or their phone keeps going off.
it's yet another learning curve for students and their teachers alike. Scott MacFarlane, News 4 IT.